Good evening. My name is Abby Wilson. I'm a senior in kinesiology here at K-State, and I was fortunate enough to be a student and a peer tutor for Dr. Ashley Rhodes' human body course. Recognized as one of the most rigorous courses at K-State, Dr. Rhodes certainly has a combination of incredible gifts that make her the perfect fit for that position. Not only is she brilliant, but she's exceptionally creative. She has the ability to relay complex information over to students on all ends of the spectrum of learning abilities. Every day she's drawing and interacting with us. Memorization is not going to help you in her classroom. So I am honored to introduce you tonight to the most influential teacher and mentor for me, Dr. Ashley Rhodes.
Thanks, Abby. That was a terrific welcome. Well, I want to talk to you guys tonight about something I call the Tesla of teaching. And when I say Tesla, most people think of these, and that's not actually what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this guy, Nikola Tesla. He was an amazing inventor, and I love this quote by him. It says, "I don't care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own." And this really embodies what I want for my students, to have this sort of a reverence for going beyond the status quo, taking in information, not just stopping there, but doing something with it. You see, Tesla had just an incredible gift for taking in so much information and then making amazing things out of it, like the electric motor, AC current, and even the precursor to cell phone, almost 100 years ago. The reason I want this is that when I walk down the halls of Ackert in the biology building where I teach, this is what I see. I see students consuming information, but not really knowing what to do with it, or even wondering, should I do something with it? In the classroom, it looks something like this. Most of us have seen something like this. It's pretty demotivating and a little scary if you think, these are our future doctors and nurses that I have in this class, right? I'd like to think we can do a little bit better. I see this again in a lot of my classes. It was just exceptionally noticeable in human body, an 8-hour beast that strikes fear in the hearts of many. I have a lot of kids in this class, about 320 a year. There's so many. Most of them are seniors, believe it or not, and they're really good at school. They are good at testing, and they know how to play the memorization game. And that's where I had to draw the line, say no more. So here's just a sample of majors that I have in this class. It's not just scientists, as you can see. I have a nice slice or representation of all the majors across campus. So when I see trends in here, I tend to think this is not something that's a biology problem. This could be a K-State problem. And the problem is something I've coined the Google mindset. Now, the Google mindset starts with the fact that most college students own at least 7 tech devices. They spend up to 10 hours a day just on their cell phones. They admit to bringing them to class just to search for info. You see, these kids think that even the simplest problems can just be Googled. They also admit to using them for cheating, which is pretty sad. It's leading to some big problems: increased anxiety, decreased academic performance, and an overall discontentment with their college experience. In the classrooms, we see that they are using these to Facebook, Twitter, multitask, and 15% would actually rather have their teeth drilled on than give up their phone for one day. So I think it's kind of a ticking time bomb waiting to happen if you think about having your teeth drilled on. What I see this manifest in my classes starts with something like low self-efficacy, which is confidence. They have low confidence in themselves, believe it or not. They have low intrinsic motivation, which is wanting to be there for the right reasons, just being interested in the concepts and wanting to be closer to the information. Unfortunately, they start with high extrinsic motivation, which is not what we want. This is wanting to show off. This is wanting to get the big degree, to get the big job, to buy the expensive car. As I start to measure this throughout the semesters, this is just a slice of my data, but as you can see, at the beginning of the semester, on a scale of 1 to 5, extrinsic motivation, which again, just wanting to show off, outperform others, ranks the highest. Unfortunately, intrinsic motivation, which is wanting to be there for the right reasons, ranks the lowest, and self-confidence is actually pretty low as well. They don't start like this. They don't come like this. Before 3rd grade, students are actually what I would consider to be natural scientists. They draw and doodle all the time. They talk about their ideas with others. They explore their world. They perform little experiments and draw conclusions. and then they redo things just to see what happens. But somewhere between 3rd grade and college, something gets off track, and I believe it's contributing to the problems that I just showed you. I think this problem is summed up nicely by Tobias, who said, if we want more students to be interested in science, perhaps we should quit requiring it after the 3rd grade, or we could try teaching it differently. Interestingly, Tesla and 3rd graders share an awful lot of characteristics. Tesla was very good at creative visualization. He was constantly making mental models. This guy doodled all the time, really good doodles, by the way. He had an amazing ability to make creative components in his mind and then assemble them out of really simple components before doing something amazing with them. He knew that his methods were different, but he didn't care. Again, this is what I want for my students, this educated skepticism that says, I'm not satisfied with the status quo. We can do better. And I think if you were to ask Tesla what he thought of students now using his inventions, the precursor to the cell phone, I think he would probably be quite unhappy with it, and rightfully so. I'd also like to point out that what 3rd graders and Tesla do naturally match with the educational theory called constructivism, and I spent 4 years of my PhD examining this as it applies to science. This theorist, Vico, said that the human can only know what they make, and to know means to know how to make. And I just think that aligns so well with what 3rd graders and Tesla do naturally. So here we have 3rd graders, a brilliant scientist, and an educational theorist all saying the same thing. So I couldn't ignore those signs anymore. So with this, I actually changed the way I approached my class. I was lucky enough to get one of those e-text grants that the university offers. And in that e-text, there was some reading, much to the chagrin of my students. But there was also a lot of fields for drawing. And so my lecture halls now look like this. We draw everything, as Abby mentioned. And so there's a lot of busyness in this room. There's not passive learning. We doodle and draw constantly. And if you look at these students from this semester, they look an awful lot like 3rd graders. And I think that's great. I wasn't meaning that as a put down. They actually look like 3rd graders, and nothing could make me happier. We construct components out of really simple things like candy. We make the unknown known. We take familiar things like Twizzlers and marshmallows, and we make really complicated structures like a spinal nerve. And when these kids do this, they take it way beyond my wildest imagination. They label it quite accurately. They build really detailed structures. But the best thing of all is the questions that they ask during this aren't, how much is this worth? When is it due? How much time do I have left? It's, what would happen if? And just that tiny shift, that paradigm shift of how they view the information tells me I might be onto something. We also take it one step farther, which I found out which pleases the drama and theater department, but we actually dress up as science components and we become the thing for a day, and they have to act out what they are in order to get credit. They also can perform in front of the class. Here's a couple of students. They chose to be a kidney and a bladder, and they are actually making urine. Now, they dribbled a little bit, but turns out that's totally natural as well, so no problem there. But again, you don't lose interest there. So instead of seeing this, I now see this, and I promise you this photo is not rigged. They're actually looking at the creation of their peers. I put them up for them to sort of evaluate, and if you'll notice, there's no cell phones being used here. It's just engagement. People ask me, how do you know it works? And the way I know it works, test scores are great. They go up. Attitude shifts. But what happens is this table in the front of my classroom, which is just an average table, it's blank first day, starts to accumulate these. I don't ask them to do it. I don't tell them to do it because they wouldn't do it if I did. But they start to voluntarily give up their tech devices. And they're using it to record what we're doing. And that's just fine. They're using these as an educational tool and not a crutch. And that's what I want. I also see little hidden pockets of these around the classroom. They don't want me to know that they're doing this, but I find out. I'd like to say there's enough battery power on this table to fuel a Tesla. Probably not, maybe a Honda, but probably not a Tesla. There's enough battery power to do something even better, and that's empower students. And I think that's something that would make Tesla and Vico quite happy. Interestingly, once they leave my classroom, they pick up their devices and they go on their merry way. The student emailed me, and they're using their phones in other classrooms I'm sorry if this is your lecture, by the way. It's in Leisure Hall. I don't know if you're here. I apologize. But they're using it to record and take pictures of things they find in other classes that remind them of what we just talked about. The student found what she thought was an osteoclast or bone cell, and she just couldn't wait to tell me. I found it everywhere. They are everywhere. And it does make a difference. By the end of the semester, we see a shift away from extrinsic motivation. Again, that's what we don't want. That's just wanting to have the ability to show off, do better than others. And we shift more towards intrinsic motivation, which is wanting to know the information for the right reasons. I'd like to say thank you to two very important people. I could not be here today without them. Dr. Jung-hee Kim from the Department of Education here at K-State. She opened my eyes to educational theory, without which nothing in my classroom would make sense. And Dr. Tim Roselle, who has now seen me through 3 degrees here at K-State, has amazing patience and just an amazing devotion to his students. Thank you.